So today we're going to be talking about Airtable. And as I mentioned, and it's going to be presented by yours truly, as I mentioned in the preamble, when we all got together before the class, Airtable is a database. And the reason why I chose Airtable is because there's a beloved, when I mentioned Bento, FileMaker Bento, you get these oohs and ahs. It was a great software. And of course, that FileMaker Apple discontinued it years ago, but it still can pull those heartstrings, which tells me that there's a need for databases. Databases don't have to be that complicated. They can be, but they don't have to be. And I think Airtable is a good balance between those. So that's why I chose this topic. You should have got a handout. I sent out sorry about all the bombardments with the emails. So the last email I sent yesterday with an updated version of the handout didn't actually include the handout. So I sent one this morning. So check your mail for that. Let's get started. So let me switch to my office here, hopefully. There we are. Perfect. Okay. So basically, like I said, Airtable is something that you can use to keep track of your information. And the way that I use it for several things, but the way that I'm going to show you is I collect vinyl records. And this is a way that I can keep track of those vinyl records. So when I am over at an antique store, yes, I go antiquing to look for vinyl records at times. I can see if I already have that album, and all I have to do is just look in my Airtable to do that. But you can use it for so much more. And Airtable has a number of different templates for that. First thing we're going to look at is what are we going to cover. So basically what we're going to look at is what is a database? Real simple, short, I should say. Databases versus spreadsheets, the difference between them. Then I'm going to talk about a few example uses for a database, why you may want to use Airtable. We're going to look at Airtable terminology just to get our feet wet with, because there's different terms. And then we're going to go into a live demo. And I'm actually going to build a database. I'm going to rebuild my vinyl record database, and you're going to see, hopefully, how easy it is to do. So, all right. So what is a database? Think of a database as basically it's a virtual assistant that helps you keep track of all of your important stuff. It's like a digital filing cabinet for the most part. In my case here, it stores all of my different albums that I have. I can see who the artists are. I can see when it was released. It could be as simple as a grocery list. You have your what the different items are, what the prices are, which aisle it may be in. That's all part of a database. Those are different fields, and we'll talk about that with terminology. Recipes or inventory, and I'm not talking about company inventory. You might want to keep an inventory of what you have at home. Well, you can do that with a database and with Airtable. So you could put, what room a piece of furniture is in, what the value of that is, maybe where you got it. You could even store the receipt if you wanted to go that far, if you're that organized. I'm not. So I would not want to do that, but you could do that. So basically, a database is, for all intents and purposes, is that how you say that? For all intents and purposes, it's a list, and you can have multiple lists. With a database, you're able to link these lists, so with the relationships and things like that. So, databases versus spreadsheets. So there's a lot of when you look at a database. It kind of looks like a spreadsheet at times, and you're going to see with Airtable, it does look like a spreadsheet. And the basic difference between them is spreadsheets are used for smaller sets of data, and you can chart things. Not that you can't with Airtable, you can do all this with Airtable, but with a spreadsheet, it's more basic, and it has its purpose. But with a database, what you're able to do is create different views into that. I call them windows, different views into your data set. So let's go with the inventory. It's very easy to create a view of all of the furniture in your living room. I want to create a view of all of the furniture in my kitchen or in my dining room. So you can create different views with that. It's a little tougher to do with a spreadsheet. Spreadsheet is made for calculations for the most part, where a database, you can organize your data. So it's a step above spreadsheets. And my thing is always prefer databases over. Databases can do what spreadsheets can do for the most part, but you can always do more with them. So generally what I do, because I'm very comfortable with databases, I will build a database before I go to a spreadsheet for the most part. So they are similar. It's just that databases are a step above. Example uses. One would be inventory, like I mentioned, home inventory. You can store all of your different information in there. You can also gift ideas, keep different gift ideas, who it's for, what the birthday is or what the celebration would be, where you could get the items, or the different places you can get an item, so you can keep it, things like that. You can also use it for pet medical history. And with pet medical history, you can, monitor any vaccinations, medications, vet visits, things like that. And Airtable has templates for all of these. And then what I use it for is, I created this on my own, vinyl records, a vinyl record catalog that helps me keep track of all of the different albums that I have. So you can, basically use it for whatever you want. And the beauty of it is, with Airtable, is you can put these, you can have all of these different things in one workspace. So why Airtable? Well, I consider it, as I mentioned in the beginning, a mix between an SQL, and it can handle SQL databases. I'm not going to get into that. That's way above my pay grade, but it can handle that. But it also can handle the simple stuff. So I call it a mix between, your heavy end, your FileMaker Pros, your SQL databases, and then you have your bentos. You also have TabForms 5, and I don't want to discount TabForms 5. TabForms 5 is a beloved app that a lot of people use. It's a Mac-only app, Mac, iPad, iPhone. It's an Apple-only app, I should say. The developer is really good at updating it. Been going on for years. It's a good program. So I would go, you have Bento, you have TabForms 5, they're probably equivalent. Bento might have actually been above TabForms 5. TabForms 5, Bento, and then you have Airtable. So, and they all have their limitations, and I think that Airtable is just kind of a good mix between them. It's the Swiss Army knife of data management systems. That's what ChatGPT came up with. So, and I agree with that. I do think that it is the Swiss Army knife. You can do a little bit of everything with it. You're not going to butcher anything with it, but you can do a lot with it. So it's a good Swiss Army knife. All right, let's take a look at Airtable terminology real quick, because I think this will help us understand what we're looking at. So basically what we have, we're going to go top level down. We have a workspace. So a workspace is basically where you store all of your different tables or your spreadsheets or your sheets or anything like that with a spreadsheet. And with Airtable, you can have different workspaces. Why would you want to have different workspaces? Well, I might have a personal workspace that I don't want to share with anyone, but I also would like to have an NMUG workspace that I share with other people at Naples. I could have a Dan's Tutorials workspace that I share with people that help me out with Dan's Tutorials. And I don't want, the people from NMUG to get into Dan's Tutorials, and I don't want the people from Dan's Tutorials to get into NMUG. So workspaces basically just separate that all out. You have to have at least one workspace. And the workspace, you can have multiple. The workspace is where you put all of your different databases and things like that. So that's the top level. Now, within a workspace, we have a base. This is the database. This is the Bento. This is the FileMaker. It's basically, where you have all of your different databases. So what is a database? Well, a database contains different tables. And I hope I'm not losing anybody here, but, a database is another container. So we have our workspace, and then we have our base, which is another container. And within that container, what we can do with the base is we can have different tables. So tables, let's go with the spreadsheet. Your tables are your different spreadsheets. Boom, you could have your inventory, you could have your contacts, you could have your albums. All those are different tables. And what you can do in a base is have these different tables relate to each other. So again, going top level down. So a table could be something as simple as a grocery list. Just go with that. And its base would be the reminders list. So if we're going to go into the Apple terminology, base would be the reminders app. The table would be the grocery list. Another table could be something else. Any of your lists and the reminders are called tables. Now, within that table, what we have are fields. So let's go with that grocery list. The item, that's a field. The price, that's another field. The date that it's due, that's another field. The store, another field. So all these different items in here are fields. With my albums, we have the album name, field. We have our artist, field. We have the date released, field. We have the rating, field. We have the quality. I have some records that are pretty warped. The needle skips on the first couple songs. I need to replace those. So I put in my Airtable, you know, the quality of it. So then I can be like, oh, I need to replace this one. It's pretty bad, you know, kind of thing. So all those are just different fields. So when you're looking at your reminders list, that's what you're looking at. It's different fields. Then within that, we have our records. So the record is the actual item, eggs, milk, you know, anything like that. That is going to be your records. In my case, my records are going to be Genesis, Pink Floyd. I'm a classic rock fan. Anything like that is going to be the different records. So that's the basic structure of it. Now, within Airtable, we also do have, this is the beauty of a database, we have different views. Remember, I mentioned we have different windows into it. So with the reminders list, we are basically, well, we do have different views. I can look at my scheduled items in the reminders list. That's one view. I can look at my completed items. Guess what? That's another view. And with Airtable, that's what we're able to do is just click on a thing, link, I guess you would say, and click on a view, and we're going to be able to get all of this different information. Something that you can't do in spreadsheets very easy. What I'd have to do is go and filter it or whatever. You know, I could create 20 different views with Airtable, and all I have to do is just click, 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 and I can, you know, get different windows into that same data set. So, a linked record, I'm not going to get into this, but a linked record is you can create relationships. Bento was just on the forefront of this, where you could relate databases or different tables together. So you could have Christmas gifts, and it links to your contacts. So one contact would have 3 different gifts. That's a relationship. So you'd have 2 different tables, contacts and gifts. But this one contact could get 3 different, so you're basically building a relationship there. And that's Airtable can easily do that. And like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but you can build many-to-many relationships, one-to-many relationships, blah, blah, blah. It's capable of doing it. You can also create formula fields. So this is where it pre-populates based on different information. So it's a calculation for the most part. And then we have collaborators. This one took me a minute to figure out when I first started using Airtable. It's basically someone you share the database with. So if I share a database with Sheeta, she's a collaborator. She's collaborating with me. That's all it is. So, but you'll see that in their terminology. All right. So let's take a look. Well, first of all, what we'll do is I see there's some questions. So Sheeta, I think this is a good time to take a look at some of these questions. And then what I'm going to do is go into my Mac, and we're actually going to see how we can create a database with all this different terminology. So.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 or 6 quick questions.
Okay.
Gerald, you're first. Sandy, you're next, and Giovanni, you're after that. Gerald Gifford, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, it's just to ask whether this is a subscription app, which I think it is. So there'll be a free version. Is it very limited, or does it ask for a subscription later? I'm not quite sure.
So the free version you can do, they're a lot like, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Notion, but they're a lot like Notion. They offer the free version for personal use, like what I use it for, although I do use it for business, and I do pay for it, but I don't have to necessarily. The reason why I pay for it is I want to use colored, like it'll change the color of a field based on different criteria. So I can look at a calendar and see if this is published or not published. So you get little things like that. I do believe that they limit the amount of records. So I think it's 2,000 records that you can put in there, and I might be wrong on that. But for the most part, it is free. And what I would do is I would try the free version and play around with that. And then if you need to upgrade, and I'm going to say that probably most people don't, the biggest thing probably is that record limit, depends on how many records you have. But no, I think the free version is fully capable of doing pretty much everything that most of us needed to do.
Thanks for that, but it does ask for a lot of information. You have to open an account and
You have to open up an account. And if you want to share it with people, then you got to start paying for it as well. No, actually you don't, because the NMUG version, I do have a table for NMUG, and that's a free version.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Jill. Gerald, you're up.
I'm a lover of Bento. That was the first database and the only database that my little mind could get it wrap around. I've built a database that includes birthdays and anniversaries and things like that for my family. I still have a little Mac laptop that's running an OS old enough I can run Bento on it, but it has some limitations. My son, who is a Windows guy, has helped me to start using Access. I don't like it as well as I did Bento. So my question is, can I do that with Air?
Yeah.
AirTable?
I believe so. It doesn't, you're going to have to put it doesn't, I don't think it links with Apple's contacts like Bento did. That was the beauty, because,
Well, that's
it's by
okay.
Apple. But yes, absolutely. You could just create a table called contacts and put all your stuff in there. Absolutely. You could do that.
Now, can I
Gerald?
import I'm sorry.
Okay, we want to get through these questions quickly. Can you please just ask one question? Because we have a lot of questions that
that's fine. No
All right.
problem.
All right, thank you. Giovanni, go ahead.
Okay. Does an Airtable support the SQL language? The structured language, which is a standard for relational databases.
It works with Zapier and all of the other connections, and I believe you can use SQL with it, but I have not done that, so I can't speak personally, but I know it is, you can, I say it's in between FileMaker and Bento, but I know that people use it above FileMaker. It's actually more than FileMaker if you want it to be. So yeah. I believe it will, but I can't answer that personally for sure.
All right, thank you. Sandy, do you want me to ask your question? Or can you ask it? Sandy's question is, can Airtable read or import a FileMaker database?
What you'd have to do is export the FileMaker database as a CSV or tab, comma separated value file. All databases do this. And then you import that into Airtable. So if you have multiple tables, you're going to have to do that multiple times. But yeah, it's not going to import it directly, but comma separated value files, tab separated value files are a common way. Excel, you can also export it out as an Excel and then import that as an Excel into Airtable. So it's not going to be, it's not going to be one-to-one, but you can absolutely do that.
Cheetah, I do have another part of that question.
Go ahead, Sandy.
I have a FileMaker file of about 3,000 records with my wife's paintings, and one of the portions is an image of her paintings. So I'm not sure whether if I export it as a comma file, will that actually be exported showing an image, or and then imported into AirPlay?
You'd probably have to do a little bit of trickery with that. Obviously Airtable does handle images. I'm not really sure how FileMaker, that's the problem with file attachments. I would say YouTube it. There's a lot of people that are using Airtable, and I'll bet you'll be able to find an answer, and it'll be yes, but you might have to do 2 or 3 steps. But yes, I'm going to say that it can, but I would YouTube it. So
Thank you.
All right, thank you. John Levy, you're up. And Jerry Schultz, your question is next after John.
Thanks. I was going to ask how easy it is to import using Microsoft's Access. My guess is you've answered it. I'd have to go to the CSV.
Yep.
I've never done that. Is that particularly difficult?
no, it's export, CSV, export, Microsoft Excel, export tab. All databases do it. I'm going to assume that Microsoft would do that, but you never know with them.
Okay, Jerry Schultz, your question is next. You can ask it or I can ask it for you if you like. Jerry's question is.
Sorry, I would like to add.
Go ahead.
I would actually.
We can hardly hear you though. You have to speak up.
You can't hear me?
We can barely hear you.
Okay, is that better now that I turned my?
No. All right, so let me ask your question. Is it a true relational database or just some linking that sort of acts like a relational database?
Linking that, it is a true relational database, but it does it through linking, which is basically how it works anyway. But it's not, it is a true relational database. It just does it through linking. So basically what you would do is just link, when you create a field, you can tell that field, just like you did in Bento, you tell that field that you want to link it to a different table.
Well,
and there it is.
Can you hear me better now?
No, but go ahead. We'll try to hear you.
Well,
You have a.
Okay, I don't know what happened. Why am I? But the so Bento was not a relational database. So whatever linking it did was not relational. And I would like to add something to the other questions too. The free one only allows you to have 1,200 records, and whoever was asking about his wife's paintings, I think, at $10 a month, it only gives you 5,000 records. So he would be hitting the limit at $10 a month, approximately. And finally, CSVs, importing and exporting CSVs and trying to do a relational database that way is, it's extremely difficult to do because you have to do all of the manual, do all of the relationships, recreate all the relationships manually. And if you have any complexity at all in your relational database, using CSVs will be a nightmare.
Yes, I would. I differ on what I believe it is a relational database because it is relating one table to another. I can be in one table and create a record in another one. That tells me that's relational, and I can do vice versa. But it's not. I would never use Airtable. I saw what the behind the scenes of what NMUG's FileMaker Pro database. There's no way that that Airtable would be able to do what the FileMaker does. So in that case, yeah, it's on the basic sense of it. Yes.
Okay. All right. One last question. Michael Skapik, do you have a question? You're unmuted.
Yes. Is Airtable encrypted all the way around like Apple Numbers? Is it safe? But it's a third-party app. I just don't like going to third-party apps if they're not encrypted or as safe as Apple Numbers.
Well, Airtable is all online. So when you download the app, it's not in the Mac App Store because it's I forget what the type of app it is. Apple doesn't allow that in there, just like Spark and a few other ones out there. Apple's infinite wisdom on what should be long in the App Store. But basically, it is all online. And yeah, it is encrypted. A lot of big companies use Airtable and it's encrypted end to end. So I'm not going to be able to sneak in and get any information on anything. So yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michael. That was the last question. Dan, all yours.
All right. So let's go over to my Mac here. Let's see if I can get this right. Oops, we don't want the summary. And hold on here a quick second. Let me go there, and there we are. Okay, wake up my computer. All right, so I'm just going to show you on the Mac, but there are apps for the iPad and iPhone, and they're okay. I'll go with okay. Although on the iPad, what I do is I go through it through the browser because their app just isn't as good as a browser experience. So this is basically this is Airtable here. So what you're going to see is when I go back, here's all of my workspaces. So this is my account here, and you're going to see that I have a workspace for Arts Council. I'm working with them on a website. Here is a workspace for NMUG, and here's my own workspace. So again, top level. Once I go into a workspace, what I have are different bases. So here's my base on albums. And within this base, and most bases are going to just have one table, but you're going to see I have my albums here. I could go and add another base. And like I said, I could go and relate this to the two to each other if I wanted to. And you can just keep adding bases. If I were going to NMUG, you'd see a lot more bases in here. You go into my site, you'd see a lot more bases in here, and they all kind of link to each other. So there's my base. Here are all my different records, just like a spreadsheet, and I can drag these around just like a spreadsheet. I can sort them just like a spreadsheet. I can filter them. So I only want to see my albums from Pink Floyd, that kind of thing. I can do that as well. I want to add another field. I just go to the plus here and I can create another field. Here's that link to another record. Here's a single line, long text, which is more like a paragraph, attachment, which would be an image, checkbox, multiple select, single select. So all these are the different types of fields, date fields, all that kind of stuff. You can see they have a lot of different fields here. Formula, here's my rating, so I can rate my albums. And all I have to do is just click on that, name it, and it adds it to my base here. Table, I'm sorry. And then over here on the left, we have my different views. So right now I'm looking at my grid view, but if I wanted to view this, excuse me, in gallery, there's my gallery view. Now what I'd like to do is view this in a Kanban style. Kanban is basically, it's almost like a gallery. And what this does is this puts all of my different albums by artist. So here are all my Beatles albums. I need to expand on this collection. Commodores, I love soul. Hall & Oates, one of my favorite bands. Elton John, I love the old stuff of Elton John. So you're going to see it's all the older stuff. So this is the Kanban. And all I have to do is just click in here to switch between them. And if I click on any one of them, let's go to Al Green. What it does is it opens up in a little window here. And from here, I'm able to go and see all the different fields. So here's my rating, the wiki page. This is a link, and I have it linked to the wiki page. Here's the album. What is the condition? I can put any notes in here. And when I'm done with it, I just click outside and I go back. So in a nutshell, that's basically how you can use Airtable to do anything. So let's go and create I'm going to recreate this so you can kind of see how it's all set up. So this is a free version. I'm logged in as a completely different user here. So you're going to see that I don't have all my workspaces. I just have one workspace. So this is typically how it would be. And there's a template here, Balloon Adventure. I must have put that in there a while back. But if I wanted to create a new workspace, let's say I was going to work with Naples on something, I would create a new workspace. I could invite Sheeta, I could invite Eckert, and then they'd be able to work on the database with me. You can have up to 5 people work on a database. After that, you have to pay for it. So if you have 10 people that want to work on a database, you're going to have to pay for it. But I'm just going to open up this workspace. And now what I'd like to do is create a base. Excuse me. Remember, top level, I have my workspace. Now I'm going to create a base, and this one's going to be called albums. So basically, we can see it automatically created a basic base. And all I have to do from here is just close this, and I have my base. So the first thing I want to do is I want to rename it. So I just go and rename this, and I'm going to call this albums. Save. All right, so I got my albums there. Now, if we look here, remember in a base is, or, we have my tables here. This is my table. I need to rename the base, my albums. So if I wanted to, I could have a table on albums. And if I collected CDs, I could create another base here called CDs. I could create another base here called 8-tracks. So you can just sit here and it's just, I could rename this to my music. So again, we have my collection, and then we go into the different bases. So here are my albums. And now what I need to do is I need to, fine tune this. I need to create the different fields for it. So what do I want to keep track of with this album here, with this database? Well, I want the name. I'm going to change this to album name. I like to have a little bit more descriptive. To change it, we just go to the little caret here, and I edit the field, and I say album name. And that's it. This is a single line text because albums are relatively short. Album names. Now I got my album name. Okay, perfect. Assignee. This is just my own database, so I'm going to go and delete this one. I don't need that one. Status. I don't need that one. I'm going to delete that one as well. So you just kind of go in here and fine tune. Notes. Yeah, I'd like to keep notes. But now what I need to do is I need to go and add an artist. So I go over here to the plus and I say artist. But I don't want this to be a single line of text. I want this to be a pop-up. So then once I enter in that artist, if I buy another album from them, I don't have to type in that name. I can just select it from a pop-up kind of thing. So what I do is I go to single select. An album can only have one artist, unless you have the featuring nowadays kind of thing. But basically, it's still one person. So I'm going to go single, select, create the field. So now I have my artist here. Let's go and add date released. Type it in there. And this is going to be a date field. How do I want the date format? Do I want to include the time zone? I don't need any of that. So I can just go create field. And we have the date released. The beauty of the date released is one of our views is a calendar, and I'd actually be able to view when albums were released on a calendar. Kind of cool. We're going to add one more in here. We're going to add condition. No, we're going to add two more. Sorry. Condition in here. And this one is a rating. Style. 5. I like to use 3. 5 is too many for me. It's either 1, 2, or 3. And now I have my condition in here, and you can see I have my stars. I can just select it. We're going to go with one more. We need to have an album cover, right? So now I just go cover. And what type is this? This is an attachment. And now I have my cover. So now I basically have, let's go into full screen here. I basically have my database here. I can start filling it out. So I have Don't Shoot the Piano Player. That is by Elton John. So I go in here and I type in Elton John. And being that it didn't find it, I can go and add this as an option. I don't know what the date release, so let's just go with March 1. I can put in notes here. My condition is good on this one. I need to add a cover, right? So I go in here. I could drag a file in here. Let's say I downloaded the cover. But what I like to do is search the internet for it. So what I do is I click in here, double click on the plus. Come on, you can do it. There we go. And I'm not going to select a file to upload it. What I'm going to do is do a web search. And now I go, Don't Shoot the Piano Player album. I search for it. That's the one. Click on it. Upload it. And There's my album cover. Let's go and add one more. Let's see here. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Now, what I'm going to do is copy this because I'm going to search for this album cover, right? So I want to make it easy. I don't have to retype that. This is Elton John again. Well, being that I've added it as a list, look what I can do. Add Elton John. I just click on it. This one, double click, go there. This one is in really good condition. I need to go and add an album cover. So now I go web search and paste album search. That's the one. Upload. And now I've just added those two albums. That's basically how easy it is. Now let's go and change the view. We're going to go and create a different view for this. This is my grid view. It's kind of boring. This is a spreadsheet type. I like to have a little more visual impact, right? So what we can do is go down here and you're going to see we have all these different views. Now, some of these you do have to pay for. If you want a timeline, you have to pay for it. If you want to use a Gantt chart, that kind of thing. I'm not worried about those. All I want to do is have a gallery. So I click on gallery here. We're just going to leave it with gallery. If I had collaborators, let's say I was sharing this with Sheeta, I could go and invite her to this, and then she'd be able to work on it with me. That's how easy it is to invite someone. Sheeta would accept it. She'd have to create an Airtable account, and then she'd be able to work on it. So now I just go and create a new view. I'm not creating a new table, not creating a new record, not anything like that. It's a new window. And there I go. There's my Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Now, what I'm able to do here is, let's go and add another album. Now we're going to look at how we can filter. So now we've got our different views. Let's go and add another one. I am also a big fan of Genesis. So I'm just going to go Genesis. And the artist, I don't have it in there yet, so I type in Genesis. I go and add the option. And the condition is good. And to the cover, let's go with Genesis. I think they had just one Genesis album. Could put in there. There it is. So that's what I want. Upload. And there it is. You can see I have my Genesis here. So now what I want to do is I want to create a gallery of just my Elton John albums. So now we're going to see the power of these different views here. All I have to do is I could recreate it from scratch. Well, that's no fun. I actually can go and duplicate this view. There it is, gallery copy. I want to rename it. So just go and rename this. And we're going to call this Elton John Gallery. But it's still showing my Genesis. So how can I filter this out? Up here at the top, we have filter. And I just go and add a condition. The album name, not the album name. I need to be artist is Elton John. And when I do that, there we go, Elton John. I want to view all of my albums. I go to gallery. I'm viewing all of my albums. I want to view just my Elton John. There's my Elton John. So I could just keep going down on this and creating all these different views. Or if I just wanted to just go to gallery, you could just go to gallery here. And I just want to find all of my Elton John. You can just do that on a, just go and change it. So this one could be, I could rename this one to filtered. So let's go filtered gallery. So it's more generic. Right now it's showing my Elton John, but let's say I wanted to see all of my Genesis albums. All I have to do is just go up to filter here and change this to Genesis. So now I'm not creating a separate view, but I can easily change an existing view. Now I want to view all of my Elton John. Now I'm viewing all of my Elton John. So as you can see, it can get pretty it can be pretty handy. You're not going to be able to do this with a spreadsheet at all. So now what I'm going to do, that's the basics of, I've just created that and it's all good to go. Like I say, I could go and add an 8-track one in here. Let's go and add an 8-track. Select the base. This is going to, let's see here. I don't want to import. Add. Create a blank table. 8 tracks. I save it. And now we have my albums here. I have my 8 tracks here. And I'm able to go and create my same database. I could go and duplicate albums since it's going to be along the same line, right? What I can do is duplicate this. I'm not going to duplicate the records because I have different 8 tracks. And we'll get rid of this one. My album's copy is actually my 8 tracks. And now I can view all my albums. I can view all of my 8 tracks. And then if I wanted to link, you could do that as well. So this is the relationship kind of thing. So I link this to another record. So right now I'm in my 8 tracks and I want to link this to my albums. Create the field. And we will go with artist, add one field. And here are my lookup fields. So I go here to albums. See if this 8 tracks. I don't have any 8 tracks, so here I could go and link. If I had 8 tracks in here, I'd be able to link that 8 track to this album. So I could create an artist, overall artist. That'd probably be the best way of doing that. Let's go and do that. Create a blank table. I'm just going to call this artist. Save. And we have albums. This is going to link to another record. It's going to be to my albums and create the field. And this is going to be artists, add lookup fields, sure. And what we need to do is add one more, 8 tracks. This is going to be a link to another record. 8 tracks, create field. Yeah, go like that. And now what I can do, let's just say this name here is Elton John. And I do have an album for Elton John. So what I'm able to do is go in here. Let's see here. Elton John. And now when I click on this, what it would do is show me all of the different albums I have. It would show me all the different 8 tracks I have for this person. I could put a bio in here. So I'm putting one bio for the artist. I'm putting one name in for the artist. But then when I go and add an album, I can select it from that. So that's the relationship side of it, where you can relate 2 different tables together. It's not a full-blown relationship, like say with FileMaker, you can do so much more. But for basic stuff like this, it works great, kind of thing. I'll show you. So this is my real album here. Let's go to, or my real table or Airtable here. So I'm going to go to all workspaces. We'll just go to mine. And so here is my CRM, my customer relationship management kind of thing. So you're going to see I have all of my lessons, all 1,800 lessons for my site. Here are all the changes. When I go and make a change, I can keep track of what changes that's related to it. So if I click on any one of these lessons and I made a change to it, I'd be able to see all of the changes to it. And when I made that change, I'm linking the 2 together. Here are all my events. So these are all my classes and webinars that I host on my site. Here are all my contacts, all the people that I contact with, different organizations, because I can have multiple contacts from one organization. So in organizations here, I would have NMUG, and then I would have Sheeta and Eckert as contacts, and I'd be able to click on Sheeta's name. It would come up as NMUG, or I could click on NMUG under organizations, and I'd see all of the contacts. And you could go even further And if I put my NMUG events in here, which is what I started doing in the very beginning, but then I decided to separate them out, I could even go and link them. So if she'd have taught a class, it would be under events. So you can link all these together. Projects, different projects I'm working on. I was playing around with keeping my email in here, but I don't do that anymore. You can link it to Google Calendar. And then here's my marketing, different things that I do for my marketing, kind of thing. And this is all under my one base, all different tables, all different views. So here are my recorded videos that I have. Here are my published videos that I have. Here are my ideas that I have. Here are the ones that are not yet on YouTube. Here are all of my videos that are on iPad OS 16. Again, all from the same table, all 1800, but all these are just different views that I have. So I can easily just go and see, let's see, I'm going to work on YouTube today. What videos do I not have in YouTube? Click on that and I can see all of the different, and each one of these is going to be a little separate. So that, let's see how we doing on time. All right. So that is basically how I use Airtable and how, relatively simple it is to set up, and, keep it down to the basics. And what you'll be able to do is, just do something like this, and then you can build upon it from there.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. First of all, do you really have 8-track tapes still?
Do I really have what?
8-track tapes still?
No, I don't. No.
Okay.
I just think came in my head like, no.
I just needed to check on that. All right. My next question is, I don't know if you were familiar with a app long ago called Delicious Library.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. And you could scan the barcode of all of your media, and it would populate it. Yeah. Because for those of us new to with thousands upon thousands of media, physical media, typing each one of these is a daunting task that just stops you from doing the task in the first place. Is there any way that this program will scan the barcodes and populate the information?
Okay, so this is how I would find that out. I don't know. I don't, Delicious Monster, is that who made it? Delicious Monster?
Delicious Monster made Delicious Library. Yes.
Library, yep. Okay. So let's, I'll show you two things here that may help. So first thing, there are a ton of videos on Airtable. So I would say scan barcode into Airtable. Now I'm using Bing, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go G here, get to my Google. There it is in 2 minutes. Now, I don't know exactly how this works, but mobile barcoding. So I'm going to say mobile code inventory. It's possible. I just don't know exactly how it all works. But it looks like you can do that. There's a barcode field type. Remember those different field types that I had, so you could do that. Another thing, what you may be able to do is I'm going to go to my test here, and let's go and create a new table. And what I want to do is templates and extension. So this is where you can get it. Let's see if we can, let's go back over here. They have a number of different templates that you can use Airtable. So you're going to see I have project tracker, content calendar, event planning, all kinds of them. And if I go to see all templates, I have all kinds of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look for, what would you call that? Media inventory. Mm-hmm. Okay. Nothing there. Media, social media calendar. Okay. How about inventory? A little complicated there. So probably Google it. I'm sure there's somebody that created something, and you might be able to start with theirs and go down that road. So, it won't look as good as Delicious Monster. That was what their beauty was, or Delicious Library, I should say.
And what I loved about it is that you could use it for anything. It wasn't just media. Yeah. You could use it for appliances, things that you bought. If it had a barcode on it, you could get it into that library.
Yeah.
I still have it running on one of my old computers. All right, we have a couple of questions if you're
Yeah.
game.
Go for it.
Okay, so we're going to start with Ward Clark, then we're going to go to Melissa, and then we're going to go to Gerald again. Ward Clark, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Well, I just checked my FileMaker inventory database and discovered that I bought FileMaker in 1992. So I've been for a while. Is there anything in Airtable that's going to attract me as an experienced FileMaker developer?
It's going to be simpler to use. You're not going to be able to create. The problem I have with FileMaker, and I know they're coming out with a free version. I saw that in the chat, and I'm very excited to kind of check that out. I think FileMaker has kind of missed the boat. Airtable is the little darling when it comes to this. And the beauty of Airtable is I can view this on my iPad. That gallery view, if I go back over to my base here, my albums, and I look at this gallery view on my iPhone, it's going to look great. You are not going to, or you could download the app. With FileMaker, the problem that you have with FileMaker is their layouts. They do not have, it can do whatever you want, but you have to build a layout for every little thing. You saw how easy it was to build a layout in this grid view. You can't do that necessarily with FileMaker as easily as you can here. You're going to have to go and tweak things, and just you're going to be pulling your hair out. And then all of a sudden, Apple's going to come out with a different iPhone that has a different size screen, and lo and behold, you got to go and redesign it again unless you properly did it right. It's so hopefully with their freemium version that they're coming out with, I think they're getting more into this online kind of thing, but I have no idea what they are doing, kind of thing. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. But Ward did have a question about the album cover. Can you make the album cover photo square?
Yes. So this is, excuse me, when I go into here, what you are able, let's see here. You got to think of where this is. Color, sort, view, customize cards. What you're able to do is set, here it is, fit, and what it'll do is it'll fit it instead of filling it. So that's common thing with images. Do you want it to fit it or fill it? With fill it, if this is a wide album cover, let's say you put it as a 2-page spread, what it'll do is it'll crop it in and fill it. If you fit it, it fits the whole thing. So now I can see the whole album cover in there. Even if it was oblong. So some of them might be a little shorter, that's, so yes, just go up to customize cards and select.
All right, thank you. All right, Melissa, you're next.
Thanks, Dan. This is very interesting. I'm wondering if Airtable with an address field would show a map, like in your little album cover gallery here. Would it show a little preview of the location?
That's a good question. Airtable map field. Again, I need to get off of Bing. Map, there's an extension. So I didn't get into it because this gets a little bit on the more advanced size, but Airtable has extensions, and you can even build interfaces. So, you can, Sheeta and I work on an email thing, and that's built in an interface. You can get more complicated with this, but add an extension, all kinds of different extensions. I believe you can, with the free version, you can add one extension, maybe two, but I would just go map. There it is. Visualize your records on a map. So yeah,
lots of possibilities.
Lots of possibilities. Yes, that's why I say you can start simple, and then you can kind of explore, and you kind of see how I'm doing it. I just do a quick Google search, and then what I would do is add this, add the extension. It'll tell me how to set it up. And there it is. I pick a table. I pick the United States. And then I would select a field, your address field. And then from that point on, what it would do is I would assume it would map it out. So yes.
Terrific. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Melissa. Gerald Gifford, do you have a question about the manual? Would you like to ask that, or would you want me to do it?
Yes, does Airtable have a instruction manual?
They're pretty good with their documentation. I'm not, nobody has an instruction manual anymore, unfortunately, but when I go up to help here, build with Airtable, and they're really pretty good. Every month I get an email from them. They're adding features on a regular basis. They're very active, and trying to move the step forward. So here, how to add a table, how to add a field, and they're going into the basics, which is really good because a lot of times they will speak over top of, they assume that people know how all this works. And this is what I like about Airtable is they're making no assumptions. They're going for the newbies, how to add a date field, how to create a button field.
I think that would work, Dan. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are we recording this?
Of
Yes.
course.
Okay, good.
Yes.
I need it.
All right. All right. Thank
And
you.
there's a lot
Yes.
of, I go to YouTube regularly for when I have questions on this kind of thing. There's a lot of people that have good videos and a few that have bad.
Okay. Don Peacock, you have a question. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, it's probably a stupid question, but is this a annuity once you join? Is it, renewable every year, or is it a one-time payment when you?
No, it's a subscription. It's a subscription.
All right, thanks.
Of course. Fred Hawthorne, you have a question.
Does Airtable provide an API so you can write an app that runs on top of Airtable and just uses it as a database feeder for the app?
I believe it does. Airtable API, Google. Yep. That's way above my pay grade, but it looks like this is from Airtable. They have an API. So,
I'll have to check it out. Thank you.
Go for it.
All right. Thank you. All right. Do we have any more questions for Dan to respond to? If you have a question, you can raise your hand or put your question in the chat. All right. No, Jill, go ahead, please.
If you were using this app as for an inventory for insurance purposes, can you just drag a picture of the item that you're listing across onto it?
Can you add a picture?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, essentially what I could do here is create a new blank table, inventory, save. I have my table, go over here, add an attachment, image, well, age, but image, and now, oops, it's still a document. So I need to go and change this. I'm too quick, I'm trying to do it too quick. If you want to edit the field, oh, it is an attachment. So now I just go back in here and image. And yeah, now basically what I'd be able to do if I was on my iPhone, I believe I'd be able to go and take a picture. You're going to see it does have a camera here. So I could take a picture of me if I had access to my camera. Webcam disabled. I didn't give it access. But yes, you can. So you could go around your house and.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill.
And I'm sure there's an inventory. I know that there's got to be an inventory template. And like I said, what I would do is watch a couple of YouTube videos on, you could Airtable inventory, Google, YouTube, Airtable inventory, and just kind of see how different people use it. So.
All right. Thank you. Giovanni, you're up.
Yes. Does Airtable have a backup utility?
Excuse me. No, it's all online. So, just like anything else that's online, there's no backup. Now, what I could do, I'm sure there's an extension that will do that where you could back it up locally. I could also export a table. Where is it? Under here. I could download, there it is, as CSV. So you could do that. But I'm guessing that there's an extension, but it's all online. I don't back mine up. I'm trusting Airtable that they're, yeah. That's why I say with quotes there. But I haven't heard of anything, but you never know. So good question. probably an extension that will do it.
All right. Any other questions, please? All right, Dan, it's all yours.
All right. All right, so that is Airtable. Let me get back to, I just have the one slide here, I think. Yep. So in summary, Airtable is a, basically a versatile and I would say an intuitive database tool. You can start out real simple and then go from there. You can play around with it for free. The apps, the iPad app and the iPhone app, they're, I would say that they're version 0.7. They're not real great, although the iPhone app is okay and you could just go around doing inventory. But when you do it online here, through a browser or through the Mac app, it really does work really, really nice. And like I said in there, whether you're new to databases or an experienced user, I think Airtable does offer something for everyone. It just works great. I'm a database geek. And this was just something I got excited about because FileMaker just got to be out of my league, out of my need, and used it at the school. And you spend more time setting it up than you do actually putting the data in and managing it. And this day and age, you want to spend more time massaging your data as opposed to building a database. And I think that's where Airtable, and I think that's where FileMaker is going down the road, I hope. So, that's basically how it works.
We do have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Tolfer, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, hi, Dan. Great presentation. Thank you. Just wondering, even though you've logged into your Mac, then if you want to use Airtable, can you set it up so that it then asks for a password in order to actually open up Airtable?
Let's see, that would be under preferences. I go to my account and I don't know. That I don't know. Update password, 2-factor. Yeah, basically what you want to do is you want to be able to have it always ask for a password. I don't know if you can do that or not.
Okay.
Sorry, don't have the answer for that because I just leave it always logged in.
All right,
It's just
thank
my
you.
personal Mac. And I also did see that somebody asked about a Mac app. You have to just search for it. It's under Airtable. Just search Airtable Mac app and you'll find it. Apple doesn't allow it to be in the App Store because it's built on some cross-platform kind of thing. Spark is the same way. That's why you no longer see Spark in there. Notion doesn't have a Mac app. Hopefully Apple will change this down the road. But being that it's not native, they don't allow it in the App Store. But you can go to Airtable and download it. And they just came out with an M1. Notion just came out with an M1 version. Sorry. So, but Airtable.
Okay.
So.
All right. Hope Tillman put information about Airtable backups in the chat. So please make sure you take a look at that. Okay, I feel you, John Russell. Okay, Dan, still yours.
All right. So Airtable Mac app, downloading the Mac app. So just do a Google search, you'll find it. All right. So let's wrap this up. Let me switch gears and get back to NMUG here. Let's see, I think it's this one. There we are. All right. So thank you, everyone.